If a billionaire CEO told you he'd pay off your crushing medical debt and marry you for 2 years, but only as a cold business contract, would you say yes to save your children's lives? Alexander Chen had exactly 14 minutes to close the biggest deal of his career. His $300,000. Bentley purred through the rain-soaked streets of downtown Chicago as he raced toward Memorial Hospital. At 32, Alex was worth $2.8 billion and hadn't spoken to his own family in 3 years, not since his father's funeral, where his stepmother had accused him of caring more about profit margins than people. She wasn't wrong. After watching his parents' bitter divorce destroy everything when he was 12, then having his college girlfriend Emily leave him for his roommate the night before graduation, Alex had made himself a promise: never let anyone close enough to hurt you again. The hospital acquisition would make him the youngest healthcare mogul in American history, his 47th business triumph this year alone. His Armani suit remained crisp despite the grueling 14-hour workday, his mind laser-focused on profit margins and power plays. Love, family, those were distractions that cost millions and left you bleeding on courtroom floors. Type heart if you're ready for this emotional roller coaster. But sometimes life has other plans. The elevator at Memorial Hospital lurched to a stop on the pediatric floor. Wrong floor, Alex thought irritably. Then he heard them. Heart-wrenching sobs that seemed to echo through his soul, triggering memories he'd spent 20 years burying. 3 identical toddlers sat huddled on the cold hospital linoleum, tears streaming down their cherubic faces, clinging to each other the way he'd clung to his teddy bear during his parents' screaming matches. Emma, Lily, and Sophie Martinez, 2 years old, abandoned in a hallway that smelled of disinfectant and despair. A frazzled nurse named Janet knelt beside them, her scrubs wrinkled from a double shift. "Sweethearts, Mama's going to be okay," she whispered, but her voice cracked with exhaustion. She'd been trying to comfort them for hours while juggling 30 other patients. Alex should have walked away, should have taken the next elevator down to the boardroom where Marcus, his business partner, waited with signed contracts worth $50 million. Instead, he found himself frozen, watching little Emma toddle toward him on unsteady legs. She tugged at his expensive Italian wool pants with tiny fingers and looked up with enormous brown eyes, the kind of innocent gaze that could melt glaciers. "Mama?" she whispered hopefully. The word hit him like a physical blow. He'd said the same thing at 5 years old, wandering through an empty house after his mother moved out, taking half his father's fortune and all of his father's trust and love. Through hushed conversations between hospital staff, Alex pieced together Sarah Martinez's story. 26 years old, former nursing student who'd dropped out when the triplets arrived premature at 7 months. She cleaned these very hospital floors during night shifts, studying medical journals during her breaks, dreaming of returning to finish her degree someday. The girls had ongoing health complications from their early birth, specialists, medications, countless emergency visits. Yesterday, Sarah collapsed from exhaustion in the hospital cafeteria while reviewing patient charts she wasn't supposed to be reading, still trying to learn, still hoping. She'd been unconscious for 48 hours, and her medical debt had climbed to $847,000. Insurance denied coverage due to pre-existing conditions. Social services had already been called. The triplets would be separated into foster care within 24 hours if their mother didn't wake up, or couldn't pay. Alex stared at the numbers on the hospital administrator's clipboard. $847,000. Pocket change for him. A life-destroying mountain for Sarah Martinez. Emma was still tugging at his pants, her sister Lily joining her with a one-armed teddy bear clutched against her chest. Sophie hung back, thumb in her mouth, watching this strange man in the expensive suit with curious eyes that reminded him painfully of his own childhood, always watching, always waiting for the next abandonment. What do you think Alex will do? Walk away to close his deal, or stay to help these innocent children. That's when Marcus arrived, his face red with frustration. Alex, what the hell are you doing up here? We've got investors waiting downstairs. This deal dies in 10 minutes if you don't sign those papers. Alex looked from Marcus to the triplets, then back to the medical bills in his hands. His mind raced through calculations. Not profit margins this time, but possibilities. Dangerous, unprecedented possibilities that terrified him more than any business risk ever had. I'll pay Sarah's medical debt, he announced, his voice cutting through the hospital corridor like a blade. And I'll marry her. Marcus nearly choked. You'll what? But only as a business arrangement, Alex continued, his tone returning to its familiar coldness, even as his heart hammered against his ribs. 2 years, contract marriage. She plays the perfect wife for my public image. I clear her debt and provide for the children. When it's over, she gets $1 million and walks away. It was insane. It was calculated. It was the most emotional decision Alex had ever made, disguised as pure business logic, because that was the only language he still trusted. Sarah Martinez woke up to a nightmare dressed as a fairy tale. The first thing she saw was her babies, alive, safe, sleeping in the hospital bed beside her. The second thing she saw was a stranger in an expensive suit, explaining how he'd pay nearly $1 million in medical debt in exchange for her hand in marriage. But Sarah wasn't the broken victim Alex expected. Let me see the contract first, she said, her voice hoarse but steady. And I have conditions. Alex blinked, taken aback. No one made demands of Alexander Chen. You want to play house for your investors? Fine. But you spend 2 hours every day with my daughters. No nannies during that time. Just you. And I finish my nursing degree. You pay for school, and I work part-time at this hospital to gain experience. That's not... Those are my terms, Sarah interrupted, her nurse's training kicking in as she assessed this powerful man like she would any patient, looking for signs of what lay beneath the surface. You get your perfect family image, I get security for my girls, and a future that doesn't depend on you. Take it or leave it. Alex stared at her. In his world, people either cowered or schemed. Sarah was doing neither. She was negotiating from a position of desperation with the skill of someone who'd spent years advocating for patients against hospital bureaucracy. Fine, he said finally. 2 hours. But don't expect me to enjoy it. Sarah almost smiled. We'll see. Sarah's trapped in luxury, but losing her soul. How long before this arrangement explodes? The Chen mansion in Lincoln Park felt like a mausoleum made of marble and money, but Sarah refused to let it intimidate her. While the triplets explored their new playground with cautious wonder, she established routines that felt like home. Breakfast at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining room, story time in the library's sunny corner, bath time with more bubbles than the pristine bathroom had ever seen. Alex kept his part of the bargain with military precision. 2 hours exactly, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., while Sarah attended evening classes at Northwestern's nursing program. He approached fatherhood like a business problem to solve, reading parenting books during board meetings and creating structured activities that made Sarah both impressed and heartbroken. Today, we will practice colors, he announced to the triplets on Tuesday, producing educational flashcards. Daddy Alex, Emma giggled, holding up a purple crayon. This is the color of Sophie's medicine. Alex froze. Daddy. The word hit him like a sucker punch every time, cracking open feelings he'd cemented shut decades ago. But the triplets didn't care about his emotional walls. They climbed on him during story time, fell asleep against his chest during their afternoon quiet time, and drew pictures that gradually migrated from the refrigerator to his office walls. Sarah watched this transformation with growing hope and growing fear. She was falling for a man who treated love like a hostile takeover, something to be managed, controlled, and eventually terminated. 3 months into their arrangement, Sarah overheard the phone call that changed everything. "The family man image is perfect," Alex was saying to government contractors. "Married to a former nursing student, raising premature triplets. The optics couldn't be better for the children's hospital contract. 5 billion over 10 years, and my wife's medical background adds credibility." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She'd been playing right into his hands, giving him exactly what he needed while falling deeper into an illusion of family. She confronted him that night after putting the girls to bed. "Is any of this real to you?" she asked, her voice shaking with fury and heartbreak. Alex's jaw tightened. "It's exactly what we agreed to. A business arrangement." "What about the girls? What about the way Sophie runs to you when she has nightmares? The way Emma saves her favorite cookies for you? The way Lily practices reading because she wants to read you stories? They'll adjust when the contract ends." "And me?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Alex looked at Sarah. Really looked at her. Her scrubs from clinical rotations, the textbooks scattered across the coffee table, the way she'd transformed his cold house into something that felt dangerously like home. "You knew the terms," he said quietly, hating himself for the words even as they left his mouth. That's when Victoria Sterling arrived. But Victoria wasn't the vengeful ex-fiancée Alex expected. She was different, older, sadder, wearing her success like armor that didn't quite fit. "I heard about your arrangement," she said to Sarah over coffee while Alex was at work. "I wanted to warn you." "About what? That he's using me?" Sarah's laugh was bitter. "I'm not naive, Victoria. This is a business deal." "No, that's not—" Victoria struggled with words, her perfectly manicured fingers trembling around her coffee cup. "He left me at the altar, yes, but not because my father went bankrupt. He left because I told him I loved him." Sarah stared. "Alex doesn't know how to handle real love," Victoria continued. "When I said those 3 words, he panicked, convinced himself I was lying, that I only wanted his money. He's been running from real emotions ever since." "Why are you telling me this?" Victoria met her eyes. "Because you're different. You negotiated with him. You set boundaries. You're not trying to fix him or save him. You're just loving him anyway, and he's terrified." 2 days later, social services showed up. Alex exploded when he learned about the investigation. "This is Victoria's revenge," he accused Sarah. "She's trying to destroy what we've built." "What we've built?" Sarah shot back. "You mean your business arrangement? Your carefully constructed lie?" But as the social worker interviewed the triplets, something became clear. Victoria hadn't called them. She'd hired a private investigator to document Alex's genuine transformation. The man who rearranged board meetings for Emma's dance recital, who learned to braid hair for Lily, who sang off-key lullabies to Sophie during her asthma episodes. The investigation revealed not neglect, but love. Complicated, messy, terrified love. Has Alex lost the only real family he's ever known? What do you think he should do to win them back? The breaking point came during a seemingly ordinary Tuesday. Alex was in the middle of contract negotiations when his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Sophie's breathing is off, taking her to ER." His first thought, shamefully, was about the timing. The hospital deal was supposed to close in 48 hours. This emergency would complicate things, require his attention when he needed to focus on the $5 billion contract that would crown his career. For exactly 30 seconds, Alexander Chen considered not going. Then he thought about Sophie's tiny hand in his during last week's bedtime story, the way she whispered, "Daddy Alex," when she thought he couldn't hear, and his blood turned to ice. What kind of monster was he becoming? He abandoned the boardroom full of investors and flew through Chicago traffic like a man possessed. At the hospital, he found Sarah in the pediatric emergency room, holding a whimpering Sophie while Emma and Lily clung to her legs. The sight of his family in crisis broke something fundamental in Alex's chest. "What happened?" he demanded, dropping to his knees beside them. "Asthma attack, severe one. They're talking about intubation if the medication doesn't work." Sarah's voice was clinical, but her hands shook as she stroked Sophie's hair. Alex looked at his smallest daughter, the one who brought him her stuffed elephant when he looked sad, who fell asleep in his lap during work calls, who'd somehow become the center of his universe without him realizing it. "Whatever it costs," he told the doctor. "Whatever she needs." "Mr. Chen." Marcus appeared at his elbow, phone in hand. "The investors are threatening to walk. We need you back in that room now, or we lose everything." Alex looked at Marcus, then at Sophie, struggling to breathe, then at Sarah's tear-streaked face. The choice should have been impossible. $5 billion versus one sick child. Instead, it was the easiest decision he'd ever made. "Then we lose everything," Alex said, turning his back on Marcus and the biggest deal of his career. "My daughter needs me." The words hung in the air like a revelation. My daughter. Sophie stabilized after an hour of treatment, but Alex didn't leave. He held her while she slept, while Sarah dozed in the uncomfortable hospital chair, while Emma and Lily curled up on the couch like kittens. When Sarah woke at dawn, she found Alex still holding Sophie, tears streaming down his face. "I almost left," he whispered. "For 30 seconds I almost chose money over her. What kind of father does that make me?" "The kind who's learning," Sarah said softly. "The kind who chose right when it mattered." "I'm so scared, Sarah." The admission seemed torn from his soul. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to love people without losing them." Sarah reached out and touched his face. "You don't have to know how. You just have to be willing to try." Will Sophie recover? Can Alex and Sarah rebuild their broken trust? Sophie's recovery took a week, during which Alex never left the hospital. He turned his phone off, ignored Marcus's increasingly frantic calls, and focused entirely on his family. He read Emma bedtime stories in uncomfortable hospital chairs, helped Lily practice writing her letters on the back of medical forms, and sang lullabies to Sophie that he made up on the spot. The business world moved on without him. The hospital deal went to a competitor. Marcus dissolved their partnership in a scathing email Alex deleted without reading. "Do you regret it?" Sarah asked on their last night in the hospital, watching Alex carefully adjust Sophie's oxygen monitor. "Losing the deal?" "No." Alex looked at his sleeping daughter. "I spent so many years building walls that I forgot what I was protecting inside them. Turns out there wasn't much left to protect. And now? Now I want to build something different, something that matters." When they returned home, Alex didn't tear up the contract with dramatic flair. Instead, he sat Sarah down for a real conversation, the kind he'd been avoiding for 6 months. "I want to start over," he said. "Not as a business arrangement, as whatever we might become if we're both brave enough to try." "What about your image? Your investors?" Alex pulled out his laptop and showed her the website he'd been building. "I'm starting a nonprofit. Free healthcare for families like yours. Victoria's helping. Turns out she's an amazing lawyer when she's not trying to protect herself from men like me." Sarah stared at the screen. "Alex, this is millions of dollars. I have billions. What's the point of having money if you can't use it to fix the things that are broken?" Over the following months, Alex's transformation wasn't magical. It was messy, difficult, and real. He went to therapy to understand why love felt like danger. He learned to apologize when his controlling instincts flared up. He studied child development with the same intensity he'd once reserved for market analysis. Sarah finished her nursing degree while working part-time at the clinic Alex established. She watched him struggle with emotions that had been locked away for decades, learning to be patient with his progress, while never compromising her own growth. The triplets thrived in an environment where love was no longer a contract term, but a daily choice. Emma's drawings evolved from stick figures to detailed portraits of their unconventional family. Lily learned to read by practicing with both her parents. Sophie's health improved dramatically in a home filled with security instead of uncertainty. Victoria became an unexpected ally, helping Sarah navigate the legal complexities of Alex's business transformation while finding her own healing in their friendship. True love has conquered all. But what does the future hold for this beautiful family? 18 months after that night in the hospital elevator, Alex found himself in an entirely different kind of boardroom. This one was painted yellow and green, with tiny chairs and walls covered in children's artwork. It was the conference room of his new nonprofit clinic, where he met weekly with other parents, social workers, and medical professionals to discuss how to better serve families in crisis. Sarah sat beside him, her nursing degree finally complete, wearing scrubs that bore the clinic's logo, a design Emma had created during art therapy. She was 6 months pregnant with their fourth child, a boy they'd decided to name David, after Alex's father. "I think I'm ready," Alex said quietly as the meeting ended. "Ready for what?" Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside wasn't a diamond ring, but something far more precious. A hand-carved wooden ring that Sophie had helped him sand during their weekly father-daughter workshop time. "To ask you properly this time, not as a business arrangement, not because I need something from you, but because you taught me that love isn't about what you can afford to lose. It's about what you can't afford not to choose." Sarah's eyes filled with tears as Alex got down on one knee in the middle of their chaotic, beautiful, imperfect life. "Sarah Martinez, will you marry me? For real this time? With our kids as witnesses and our future as the only contract that matters?" Emma, Lily, and Sophie ran in from the play area, somehow knowing this was an important moment. They piled onto Alex's lap, a tangle of arms and giggles and pure joy. "Yes," Sarah whispered, and then louder, "Yes!" The wedding took place in the hospital courtyard where they'd first seen each other, not because it was romantic, but because it was honest. This was where their story began, where broken things got mended, where families were born not from contracts, but from choice. Alex's vows were simple. "I promise to choose you every day, even when it scares me, especially when it scares me." Sarah's were equally direct. "I promise to love you through your healing, just as you love me through mine." The triplets scattered rose petals with the enthusiasm of children who'd finally gotten the fairy tale they deserved. Not one where a prince saves a princess, but one where two people save each other. What do you think their future holds now that love has won? Should Alex officially adopt the girls? Drop a heart if this story touched your soul, and share if you believe in second chances at family. Subscribe for more stories that prove the best investments aren't made with money, but with hope. Because sometimes the greatest deal you'll ever close is the one that opens your heart. What story should we tell next?